Hey there, hey there, hey there. So, Facebook, I am Kylie Ansett, the author whisperer, and feels a little bit different today because I'm not sitting on my usual chair and I'm not in my usual spot. I've still got my bookcase. But I like to talk to people about, I guess, the different methods to get the amazing messages and passion that they may have in their heart out of their heart and into the form of a book, and then, yeah, of course, into the world. So that is kind of like, I suppose, what I'm passionate about doing, certainly at the moment. So I wanted to use the analogy of yoga because I just did a beautiful yoga session and, you know, I haven't done one for a while. I've been a bit slack and my body has definitely been feeling it. And as authors, as writers, as people who sit at desks or even worse, and absolutely no doubt about it, cramped onto, that's not good, cramped onto couches and all that kind of thing, doing our writing with the most dreadful posture. And of course, I am talking about myself because, oh, here we go. Because that's often how I do my writing, is like all definitely cramped up and my body is feeling it. Okay, hang on. I'm going to call this book yoga. Why not? Stretch into it. Okay, now let me get to the point. And the point is that it's really interesting when you are stretching your body, especially when you haven't done it for a little while. I used to have a very disciplined practice of stretching every day. And although I still definitely move my body every day and do something physical, other things have replaced the stretching that I used to do. And what I found is that when you do some yoga or some stretching on your body when you haven't for a while, there's all these muscles that you're being introduced to, sometimes for the first time, but it's kind of an interesting experience because you are feeling into it and you're kind of, does this feel good or does this feel bad, or should I be going more, or am I not doing it enough? All those sort of things that come when you're doing something unfamiliar. Actually, I was showing someone, one of my clients today, I was showing them how to stretch. And this was a person who had, I could tell, never in his life stretched before. And so it was kind of a very awkward, very awkward for him. And, like that's of course how it's going to feel at first. So I think that when you bring that to your writing, you bring that same attitude to your writing, it's really interesting. Stretch into it when you're starting to move that writing muscle, and it feels a bit awkward or it feels a little bit uncomfortable. And these are the rules that I have whenever I'm training someone how to stretch, which I do a lot, probably almost every day, but certainly a few times a week. I have my rules, which are number one, I'm just trying to remember if there's 2 or 3 rules. I want to think that there's 3. But anyway, number 1 is no pain. There should never be any pain. Number 2 is keep breathing. Because a lot of, there is 3. I knew there was. A lot of people hold their breath when they stretch, especially when they're not familiar with it. And number 3 is just release into it. Allow it to happen. Now, how would it be if we brought those rules into writing? Now, when you are creating a book, when you're putting your passion out of your heart and onto the page, there's times where it does feel awkward and maybe it is actually painful. So the way that I like to talk about it with stretching is that you're going to feel sensation, and it's going to be, of course, like, you know, you're taking a muscle into a new area, so it's going to feel a little bit unfamiliar, and sensation, but not pain, not something that sort of catches your breath and makes you go, And I think that's the same with writing. A lot of the time it might feel uncomfortable, and it definitely will feel awkward if it's something that you're not used to, but it's also okay for you to have that sensation of, you know, maybe not quite sure, but there's no point having it pass into pain. And this is definitely one of the things, although I've never used this analogy exactly before, but this is definitely one of the things that I talk about with my author coaching clients is when you are creating a book, there's a lot of discipline. You definitely need a discipline to write as much as it takes to write a book, and then everything that goes with it. So that there's no point, what am I trying to say? If you get up from the keyboard and it's been a painful experience, how hard do you think it's going to be to sit back down again tomorrow? And again, and again. And if it's painful every time, you are going to find excuses. There's going to be a resistance. There's already a resistance. So don't make it harder for yourself, you know. Actually, one of the best tricks that I had for, I can't even remember what where I first used this, where I found this trick, but it is for creatives. It is for people who are creating with a discipline, because of course, you know, it's nice to be creative on a whim and kind of do it when you feel like it. But if you're doing it with the objective of, let's say, for example, writing a book, you have to apply discipline to it. It can't just be on a whim, because believe me, it's very hard to take it to its fruition or to actually get something out of it if you do it that way. But to do anything like that, you really need to create an experience that is as pleasurable as possible. And here is my number one trick for doing that, which is to actually stop while it's still feeling good. So a lot of the time people have a timer that they use with writing. So they might say, you know, I'm going to write for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 40 minutes, whatever it is that they've given themselves. And they sort of really strictly stick to that time limit. Now, here's the thing about that. Here's the thing that I'm going to suggest that you do differently so that your discipline of writing becomes a pleasurable experience. What you actually do is you don't necessarily take it to the end of that 40 minutes. You stop while it's still feeling good. And what that does is that it actually leaves you with a really positive feeling, rather than taking it to its sort of fruition and like, you know, I got to keep going, got to keep going, got to keep going. I've got another 5 minutes, got another 5 minutes. While you're actually at the height of, you know, you're going, oh my gosh, I am in flow. I've just remembered where I first taught this. I'll come back to it. When you're in flow and you're really like embodying the whole experience, of course, you know, complete that paragraph, complete that chapter or whatever, but stop then. Don't sort of write yourself out or write yourself into like, okay, I've run out of steam now. Because what happens is the thing that you retain and remember the most is the last few moments that you were doing the thing. And this is where I first used this analogy. It was when I was teaching meditation, and it was the exact same thing. So meditation is very much a discipline. And what I would say to my students is that when you are meditating, rather than sort of doggedly going to the end of that 20-minute session or whatever length of time you've set yourself, when you're really let's say, I mean, there's no point saying, okay, after 1 minute I felt good, so I stopped then. But let's say you were going to do it for 40 minutes. say you got to 35 minutes and at 35 minutes you were feeling pretty damn good, and things were, you were in it. That's when you stop. You go, okay, stop here. And of course what it does is it leaves you with the memory, which, as I've already said, the last few moments of when we did something is what stays with us. That's the memory that you'll bring with you to the next session, to the next day, when it's like, okay, it's time to meditate. Guess what you're going to be recalling when you think of this discipline that you're going to be undertaking? You're recalling those last few moments rather than sort of pushing on to the end. Come on, you got to do another. You've got to go right to the end of the 40 minutes. That's it. And those last few minutes were torture. Then that's what you remember next session. And it just, it's a mind trick, but why not use these things for our benefit? Exactly the same with writing. Stop while you're in a high. Stop while you're in a good point. Don't write yourself down into like, okay, I'm sort of, I've written to the end of my, to the end of my tether. That's my little tip for you. And it started being a little a chat about stretching, and I still think there's some analogies to be drawn there. But the point is that feeling into the way you're writing and being a bit creative with it, having a bit of fun with it. There's no hard and fast rules, and all of these suggestions and ideas that I give you and that I work with my clients. Of course, when I'm working one-on-one with clients, I'm able to really tune in to where they're at and sense what they need to hear at that point, and then give them the advice that they need to hear, or the techniques or tips that I've used that may be good for them. So you need to do that for yourself. What are the methods that are going to best help you to achieve whatever objective it is that you're aiming for? So definitely stopping while you're on a high is a pretty good little mind hack that will help you to keep going even when the going gets tough, and push on through right to the end. And stretching into it, using your writing practice like a yoga practice. So really, when I haven't stretched for a while and I do a great session like I just did, it was about reconnecting myself with my body. As writers sat at desks or cramped on couches, we can become extremely disconnected from our bodies, and we're very much in our heads and living our lives on the screen. Connecting with your body is such a powerful thing. It's one of the gifts that I give to my clients when I do massage as well. If I can reintroduce someone to their body, I think, my job is done. Now, when you're writing, using this analogy, it's about reintroducing yourself to inner parts, maybe to your creativity that you've been disconnected from, and being okay with it feeling awkward, being okay with it feeling like, this is new, I haven't done this before, but just stretching into it and allowing that release to happen. So don't hold your breath. There shouldn't be any pain, but there will be sensation, and there should be sensation. You have to push the boundaries to get anywhere, right? Otherwise, you're not actually stretching. And also release, allow, let whatever wants to happen, happen. Now, that's how I see the beauty of connecting with the inner muse and allowing your creativity to come out, to flow, and to rise to the surface and to express herself. I've certainly had a bit of a theme going lately about not expressing ourselves and about censoring, self-censoring and outward censoring. I've even had some experience of that with people kind of judging me because of the way I've said or done things. And you know what? It's just part of that yoga. It's part of that experience of feeling into it and going, what do I need to learn about myself from these experiences, and how can I possibly help these other people, or how more to the point, where do I need to stretch? What's the area that I need to stretch into? It's certainly an interesting experience to always be this is something that I hear David Icke say a lot, who is one of my heroes. I'm going to admit it. He says, you know, we don't usually censor ourselves because we're scared of what the government might think, or what you know, the Prime Minister of America, no, the Prime Minister of Australia, the President of America, whatever. We don't censor ourselves because we're worried about what they think. We censor ourselves because we're worried about what, you know, our neighbors will think or our friends will think. It's self-censoring. It's that kind of that little hen peck. No, don't step out of line. Stay in. You know, be inside the tight little box that's been created for you, and don't step out. So we are very effective. What does he call it? It's the prisoners policing themselves. You know, they don't even need prison wardens there. They do it to themselves. And you know, we can all be guilty of that if we're not careful. So definitely releasing, stretching into your writing, just allowing it to flow. Have a try next time you put pen to paper, which I hope will be within the next 24 hours, because one of the other things, like stretching, it doesn't work if you only do it once a month. It doesn't really work that well if you only do it once a week. But if you do it once a day, the body starts to feel pretty good. And that's exactly the same with writing. So it's a daily practice. It doesn't always have to be perfect. It doesn't always have to be great, but it has to always happen. So try this little practice out. I've given you actually 2 really cool practices, one about ending the writing and one about the actual process. So try those out and let me know, are they something that is going to help you in your writing, in your continuation of your writing? Are they things you're going to incorporate now all the time? And if you would like a bit more of this kind of stuff in a more one-on-one, more structured, more tailored to your specific needs, then get in touch with me, because I am doing one-on-one mentoring, which is where we sit down together virtually. You're in your home, I'm in mine. But we connect, you know, usually over the phone or over the internet, whatever, but it's a very powerful way to help move you from where you are now to where you want to be in your writing journey, whether that is around self-publishing. And one of the things that I specialize in is what I call soul-aligned self-publishing, which is where you really are connecting with the message you want to get out. And it's not just about publishing a book, it's about making a difference. And heart-centered authoring, which is definitely something that all of my books have come from taking what has been my passion and turning it into the written word. So if that's the kind of thing that you love and you want to know more about how to do it, I'm here to be your guide and your companion along that road, and make it perhaps a little bit more speedy, a little faster. A lot of the time people get stuck on that road with things that sometimes can be easily overcome when you have a second pair of eyes looking on them, and also giving you some of the tricks and tips like I just did now. All right, let me know, get in contact, send me a message if you want to connect on that level. And otherwise, you know what I say you've got to, the world needs your story. So right now. All right. Bye.